Hey everybody, welcome to the Stock Car Spectacle. I'm Ian Jortson.
I'm Mike Campbell.
And I'm Nick Kinzel.
And joining us again for another episode is Connor Bunn. Thanks again for joining us, Connor. We love having you on, bud.
I'm back, guys. I'm glad to be in class this week after my suspension. So I'm glad to be back.
Oh, professor, ready for you, bud.
Nice.
Yep, we're getting ready for another edition of Kinzels Classroom. Professor, why don't you take it away, bud?
All right, settle up, boys. Class is back in session. Welcome to another edition of Kinzel's Classroom here on the Stock Car Spectacle. For those who are first-time viewers, this is how it works. So I am the professor. I have now 4 drivers that I have on my list, and I'm going to review like how they did during the race, and then I'm going to turn it over to you guys, give them some grades. Then we got our 4th driver is our controversial driver of the week, and all 3 of you will give your inputs on that. So let's get started. So Connor Bunn, you are our guest this week on the Classroom. So last time you were on here, I gave you this driver. I'm going to give him to you again. That 34 of Michael McDowell, man. So he finished 19th in the race, but Michael McDowell, after this race, has moved into the top 20 in the points. So when is the last time we've ever seen a front row car in the top 20 in points? He's got 7 top 15s this season and about 10 top 20s on the year. So really not a bad year for Michael McDowell so far. So I got to ask you, man, is he still just passing the test but failing the class? Because in my mind, he's passing a lot of tests this year. So I don't know if he's still failing the class. What do you got?
Yeah, he's definitely passing. He's definitely still passing the test. It's hard to give front row drivers a grade like that, because it's like, for how long that team's been around and their competitive cap and what their potential is. I don't want to grade them too high, but then again, like I want to give them their credit because he is top 20 in points and he has had a decent year. So I'll give him a C+ for what he's done so far, and now I guess for the class I'll give him like a high D. So he's now passing the class. He's not failing the class anymore. I did see where he was in the top 20, technically in the hunt for the playoffs. So I will give him a high D, but that is subject to change. He can fail the class at any time and go back down to his 16F.
Yeah, I was gonna kind of give him like a solid B because it's front row motorsports. We know they don't have the best equipment. John Hunter Nemechek started off the year really hot, and he has really cooled off since we've come back. So that's been kind of disappointing to see. But Michael McDowell, he's always running like 15th to 16th week in and week out. And I just think that's impressive for that team. But as long as Michael McDowell's been around, I can kind of see where that's coming from as well. But I'm going to give McDowell a B for this race. And he's doing well this season. So next driver on the list I got for Mr. Mike Gamble here. Mike, what happened to Ryan Blaney in this race, man? This just did not look like a typical Ryan Blaney race where we're used to seeing him run up front most of the race, finish 20th, not his best day. So what happened, bud?
So I'm going to go with a big fat F for Ryan Blaney and the 12 team. More importantly, a big fat F for Mr. Todd Gordon, first and foremost. I felt like this was a race where they had decent enough speed early. When he got up there, he was battling for the lead, and at times looked like he might have just been the best car on the racetrack. And then towards the end of stage 1, we tried to get all squirrely with our strategy and try to be the smartest people in the room, and blew up in our face. I felt like this, I try not to get too down on Todd Gordon from time as much as I do, but felt like this one it's pretty warranted. I felt like we out-strategized ourselves from having a competitive day. So
yeah,
I got to go with an F on this one. I thought we had one of the better cars and just found a way to kind of poop it down the toilet. So
the execution just was not there. He was very fast early, but I'm going to have to agree with you, man. And we have a new member of the Kinzels Classroom Breakfast Club, Mr. Ryan Blaney and Todd Gordon. Come on down. Big, fat, stinking F for you guys. All right, so for Ian, I have not just one, I have 2 drivers. I got JTG Doherty Racing here. So Ricky Stenhouse Jr. started 31st and finished 14th. And then Ryan Priest, he started 30th and finished 16th. Not very flashy results, but given the last 4 races where either that 47 or 37 is finished dead last, they kind of needed a rebound like this. So, Ian, what do you got for JTG Doherty Racing?
Well, for both 47 and 37, I gotta give them a B for their effort on Sunday. Really great performance by Ricky Stenhouse and Ryan Preece, especially Ryan Preece. I actually individually have to give him an A plus, just for not finishing dead last.
This time.
Exactly. So yeah, that's an A plus right there for Mr. Priest. And yeah, just JTG as a whole, I would give them a B because yeah, great performance with getting 14th place for the 47, 16th place for the 37. Yeah, they don't run that high. They don't have the best equipment like other teams do. So yeah, big round of applause for JTG right there.
Yeah, I kind of give them a B plus. They didn't tear any race cars up. We know they're not the best teams week in and week out, but just for Ryan Preece to finish the race is good for him because he is outside the top 30 in points right now. That's just a ridiculous stat right there. Like, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr., he's not having a horrible year. Like, yeah, he's always a risk to start something on the racetrack, but he's kind of just rode comfortably this year. So JTG Doherty Racing is definitely a step in the right direction. So good runs for both of those guys. And now it's time for the controversial driver of the week. Sorry, bud, gotta do it to you. 18 Kyle Busch only completes 15 laps, scored one big fat stinking point on the day. Kyle Busch, he's been on this show quite a bit, in this segment quite a bit, and they have not been for very good reasons. Have at it, boys.
So
Connor,
I'm going to start.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to go with an incomplete, actually, on this one, because here's the thing of it. I thought, actually, that 18 car looked pretty dang sporty early in the race. He was moving up with, I think it was in the top 5, looking like he was getting ready to battle there for a little while, and then the tire went down. You really can't put that on them by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, it is Kyle Busch, probably the one of, if not the most talented drivers of this generation. So I'm going to go on a limb and say there's pretty small chance that he was overdriving the right front, and that's why it went. Just one of those things, like, who knows? I know he maybe smacked the wall and maybe got a little damage, but I don't know if it was that much damage. I thought it was kind of very peculiar tire to go down the way it did. So I'm going to go with an incomplete only because I can't really justify personally giving Kyle an F for something like this. It probably wasn't even his fault.
Yeah, I tend to agree. It was one of those deals where it's like you're sitting there 18 laps in the race with, 2x4 hammered to your forehead. You're like, what just happened? Because, if I'm being honest with you, I thought yesterday was a great opportunity for that team to go get a win. Not only is it a track that he runs really well at, it's the package that better suits him and stuff. So, I guess for theory, yes, F automatically. Just, finishing dead last, getting 1 point, just unacceptable, especially for that team. But, they did run well at Kansas, and they had a lot of momentum going for them. Rowdy made his mistake, hit the wall, and it looked like yesterday I watched it back. Unfortunately, I missed the first, 20 laps, so I missed the accident, but I went back and watched, and they did look competitive, and that is a team that gets the car better as the race goes on, this year at least too. So who knows if he would have been able to get up there and compete with Keselowski and Hamlin and Blaney. But it's just super, super frustrating, and but it's almost understandable too, because if you look at it this way, where we're going to Texas and we're running the 550 horsepower, and Bubba's racing 127 laps on his right front and nothing's happening, and you automatically get thrown into this package with no practice, no qualifying, and in the normal package, the one that we race more oftentimes than not, you can really drive the piss out of the car and not have to worry about the tires per se. I mean, Logano was right when he said that the tires lose grip, but they don't lose any speed. And so going from that package to this package, where it's very easy to overcook the right front, especially at a track like New Hampshire that tends to eat up those tires quick, it's almost an understandable mistake for him to overdrive it, but definitely a weird instant for right front to go flat 15 laps into the race, even with a little bit of contact with the wall. Because I've seen Rowdy hit the wall harder and a tire not go down. So I guess in theory F for sure. Maybe even just kicked out of the class. but yeah, it sucks. Big oof for Rowdy.
Yeah, for Kyle Busch, I tend to agree with you guys with the incomplete, but Kyle Busch's whole season has just been it's been a D average, really. It's just been bad, and I feel like he was just kind of overdriving it at the start of the race. He really wants a win and just kind of smacked the wall there. We know how sensitive these cars are. They're not like the Xfinity cars where you can hit the wall and you can keep going. We've seen a lot of tires get cut from these guys just smacking the wall ever so lightly. So, yeah, he kind of did that to himself. So I would have to give Rowdy an F just kind of for putting himself in that situation.
All right. Well,
Yeah,
I said, all right, Nick, now why don't you give us your unbridled opinion, sir?
here's what I'm gonna do. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm feeling generous. I will not put him in the Breakfast Club this week. What I will do is I will give a big fat stinking F to Goodyear tires right there is what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
Is because there's just no need for a tire failure to go 15 laps into a run. Like, even though New Hampshire can't eat up the tires, there's no need for it. But here's what I am gonna say though. Kyle Busch, this is absolute panic mode at this point. Like, are we really comfortable with a 94-point lead? Because over the cutoff right now, because Kyle Busch either comes off the truck slow, or when he has speed, something goes wrong, and that was just one of those cases I think that we saw. But yeah, to have just the one playoff point right now, still no wins on the year.
He had 6 races until the playoffs.
He had a pretty ugly looking pedigree car. I hope to never see that car on the track again. Those pedigree cars are god awful. But yeah, it's got to be it's still absolute panic mode for this 18 team. They needed to go out and execute yesterday and have a solid points day. And I feel like Goodyear Tire robbed them of that with the tire failure 15 laps into it. But yeah, we're getting into scary times here. He has a 94-point cushion right now, but if he keeps having poor performances like this, that can go away in a heartbeat. So, yeah, it's in the danger zone right now for sure.
I tend to differ a little bit from our other residential trailer park member, Dalton, who is a Kyle Busch fan, who is an absolute season's over mode. I tend to look at it from a perspective like, Kyle, they've been getting better. Kansas was really the first race since way back in June at Atlanta where they rolled it off the truck and it seemed like they got it right. They were able to win a stage, had momentum going for them, and I think it was one of those instances where we see Kyle Busch often do a lot when he has a very competitive car and can possibly win the race. He sometimes overdrives it and hits the wall and gets himself in trouble, and I think that's what we saw at Kansas. But I think the momentum was still carrying forward. Even with their bad luck, even with Texas going through the grass, coming back, finishing 4th and stuff, they still carry that positive momentum. So that's what really sucks, is just to see, a race like that where, you almost knew he was going to be competing for a top 5, kind of get stripped away with him by Goodyear. And what's even more frustrating is that how, you can do 127 laps on your right front at Texas with a Goodyear tire, and you can't do 15 laps on your right front and New Hampshire on the tires. So, definitely frustrating for sure. Panic mode. I don't know if I'm in panic mode. I think I'm just kind of like, obviously you want to win, but right. I think in terms of making the playoffs, I think Kyle's going to make the playoffs. Granted, we are 13th now in the points, so I'm sure we will start 20.
For him a little bit is that if he doesn't get a win or no more stage wins before the playoff, he's going to enter the playoffs with like the 14th or 15th seed, because he's only going to have one playoff point. So that's where, and then like one bad race can really screw him over in the playoffs. So that's where the panic is a little bit, but I still wholeheartedly believe that we have not seen the best Kyle Busch this season. We definitely haven't. I think he has a shot still. I think he's definitely going to make the playoffs if he does not get more results like this. And I think he can easily turn it on and just go out and win 3 or 4 races. That's how talented of a guy he is.
It's Kyle Busch we're talking about.
Yeah, we got to remember who we're talking about here. And I think they're starting to turn around at the right time too, even though it's a little bit of a slower turnaround than maybe what we would expect or sometimes see. But, you look at the first 3 races of the playoffs: Darlington, Richmond, Bristol. all three tracks that Kyle Busch is really good on. They could get this thing turned around by the start of the playoffs and actually be in winning contention form. And those are three tracks. He makes the playoffs. Those are three tracks where he's very competitive and very good at.
Take one. All it's going to take.
Yeah,
is
all it's got is with is one, and see where it goes from. So I'm not necessarily panicking. I'm not happy by any means where we're at, especially in points. I mean, we're 13 points now, so I guess we're going to start 25th this week. But I'm not necessarily in panic mode. Now, if we continue to have bad luck, like if we have a bad Michigan race or bad 2 races this weekend, then I'll start to sweat a little bit. But yeah, I'm with you guys though.
All I'll say on the matter is this very quickly. Kyle Busch makes the playoffs, turns back into Kyle Busch, and holds that championship trophy in Phoenix later this year. Nobody's even going to remember this regular season. It's going to be like that thing like, hey, you remember when Kyle Busch had that really crappy regular season, still won a championship? So I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but it's very possible. And we all know that there's anybody that's capable of turning it on just like that, it's Kyle Busch.
Well, yeah, all it's going to take, like I said, all it's going to take is one. Once he gets that one win off his
and then
back,
he's on it.
Let's go. So anything, I think that's a good place to end. So, Mr. Ryan Blaney, I'm going to have to see you after class, bud. Other than that, class is
Todd Gordon, I'm going to meet you in the playground after.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Connor, thanks again for joining us. Make sure to follow Connor Bunn on Twitter and Instagram for great NASCAR content. Make sure to follow me, Nick, and Mike on Twitter and Instagram as well, along with the Stock Car Spectacle social media accounts. If you're listening to us, make sure to check out our YouTube channel to like and subscribe for more content. And if you're watching us, make sure to check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all other podcast platforms. I'd like to say thanks again to Adam Cristofaro, Matt Klug, and Jack Kovach for providing us with their music. Make sure to check out our buddy Patrick Cotto with the Cotto's Mojo podcast. It's a great Chicagoland-based sports podcast. And last but not least, make sure to follow our friends at Ashland Heddens Racing. The Central States Region Super Cup Series just got their season started. Ashland's already started her season looking fast. So good luck to Ashland and the entire crew. So thanks for joining us, guys. I'm Ian Jortson.
I'm Mike Gamble.
And I'm Nick Kinzel.
And I'm Connor Bunn.
Make sure to check out our latest episodes this week with our New Hampshire review, our Michigan Road America preview, and the Gamblers picks. So thanks for joining us, guys. We'll see you next time.